Rory, Celia, it is great to see you again. And I'm sure people who have seen the original webinar where you talked about your COVID will be delighted to see you both looking so bright and so well, and will be interested to hear how you are.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank all the kind wishes I had from the people that would watch the last webinar. It was brilliant. And I am, in theory, totally recovered. My COVID was hard, obviously, but I've had a respiratory test after, no scarring on the lungs and no other problems at all. I am a little bit tired, but we don't know whether that's the potential, could be long COVID, but I don't think it is, or whether it's a CLL or whether it's the relationship to my hip. But no, I am top of the world. Thank you.
Yes, I believe you've recently had a hip replacement, so you're on the road to recovery from that as well. You're really ticking a lot of boxes these days, Rory.
Yeah. I mean, I had the usual. I had to wait about a year for the pre-op assessment to be completed. That got cancelled the same time as I got COVID, and then I got a date of September the 30th.
No. June
28th.
June 28th.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then it got cancelled with all the numbers. So I had to wait 8 weeks. It was very, very hard for me to wait the 8 weeks. Since then, had my operation on the 30th of August. Mm-hmm. And it's been fantastic. It was like somebody just turning a switch. Had it with a robot. NHS, thank you very much. NHS Scotland. And I was in and out within 57 hours. I had, going back into the hospital, walking over the threshold again, because you had to go in on your own. I had that smell, I had them bleeps and the wearing of the aprons, and the COVID flashbacks came back, and that was, but no other side effects apart from the memories of Celia being upset and being on her own, and me being in a hospital bed in a ward, which was unlike anything I did with COVID when I was isolated for the 40 days.
Celia, how do you think Rory has been, and how have you been?
When we last spoke, he was still just on the road to recovery, wasn't he? And I think it's quite remarkable how well he's done, you know, considering he was so weak when he came out of hospital last time. He really is back to his normal self, apart from the limitations that the hip's been giving him over the last year. So looking forward to a fit man again soon, hopefully, once he's recovered from this hip. For me, I don't know, I look back at that time now, and I was terrified at the time and constantly anxious every day, but it now seems a lifetime ago, John. Do you know, although it's only last year, it just feels, it's a bit surreal really, and feels a long time ago to me. I think we've moved on a lot, but I'm still anxious, I think, to a certain extent about COVID. I can't believe really that we're still in the middle of a pandemic this amount of time on. You know, I think in my naivety at the time, I thought that this was going to be a very quick thing and we'd be over it and we'd be back to normal quite quickly. And it's not worked like that at all, has it? And, you know, I think for people with blood cancer, you know, you're very vulnerable, and it's balancing that going back out into the world, but not putting yourself in danger. And that, I think, is quite hard. And for that reason, we've been quite sheltered this last year and haven't been in social situations very much at all.
But you did go back to work in between your recovery from COVID and your hip operation. And to remind folk, you work at Aberdeen Airport in the runway operations department. So how was that going back to work experience?
I cannot fault my, all of my managers, and even the head, the CEO of Aberdeen Airport and Glasgow and Southampton is one person, and he rung Celia up personally and rung me up. I cannot fault the HR department, and it sounds like I'm doing an advert here. They basically supported me 100%, more than I actually suspected. When I first went back, I was on a phased return. And in fact, I was just working from home 2 hours a day, which I laughed at to start with. But I had to catch up with all my training and all the new procedures they had in place for COVID. And then I went to 2 weeks of 4 hours a day. And then I had to actually physically go in, and I was learning. They sent me a risk assessment for everything, absolutely everything from in and out of the vehicles, how many people could be in rooms, what dishes were washed, what things weren't washed. It was just absolutely amazing. And on top of that, I had my own personal risk assessment, which I was allowed to contribute to anything that I felt unsafe with, even down to the stage where I could have my own vehicle and no one else would touch it. I'd get a report of that vehicle being sanitized. It was just amazing. But we had some unusual situations because we wasn't getting all the rules at the time from in fact, the webinars was our best part of information. But like people would say to me, well, now you've had COVID, you can't catch it again. We're going to give you a antibody test. And the antibody test came back negative, but they said, it doesn't matter, you'll still be okay. And so there was a lot of still learning things that we had there. But I felt safe at all times until towards
it's just after Christmas.
Just after Christmas, I finished the shift and night shifts. And then the ping pandemic happened. And one of my work colleagues who said that his son had caught COVID, but he felt fine. And obviously the aviation business is quite tight. Everybody was worried about whether it was going to survive or not. And I think basically he's a worker, and he decided to stay in work. And I felt very anxious, but came home, discussed it with Celia, felt that I didn't feel comfortable, even though that they was giving me a great support. And I rang the GP and I said, I'm not happy. And they took me offline. And in 5 days after that, then we went into shielding.
We went into lockdown, yeah.
So from a social perspective then, have you been going out and about or have you been keeping to yourselves?
We are in a great situation where we live in a lovely community. Even there might be 30 houses under the same postcode, and it's very, very rural. And we're so lucky. We've got a massive, great garden and 2 dogs. And we spend a lot of time just at home. And it was wonderful. And I feel guilty about telling people how wonderful and spacious it was to be able to spend time in nature. And I take a little seat with me because I got tired when I was walking, and I maybe walk for 20 minutes or half an hour. Then I would sit down, watch the world go by, take my binoculars, and then I could still go on a little bit further. It was pretty special. It was pretty special.
We're very fortunate living where we do. I don't know how we would have done if we'd have lived perhaps in a city, in a flat, and we couldn't get out and about. But no, we've socialised perhaps locally with neighbours on occasion, but we really haven't been out to eat or shop apart from supermarket shopping. We haven't been into Aberdeen and mosed around, or we're just here.
Well, I think you both are coping admirably, to say the least. So I suppose the common thread that we share, Rory, is our CLL. So let's just see how you are in that department.
CLL is an ongoing thing. It's something I sometimes have to remind myself that I've got, and it's good for me to be part of the webinars and the what's the word I'm looking for?
Our self-help group.
Self-help groups, yes. There we go.
Yeah,
especially the one on memory loss. No, and that reminds me that I've got CLL. It makes me think that I have to do my own risk assessments about life and not get so het up about having CLL, where it could take over my life at one stage. It could go from having CLL to having secondary cancer to dying in a matter of an hour without my thought process. But now I am totally happy. I wake up in the morning and I'm very grateful for everything I've got. And I've learned the phrase of living with cancer, and inviting cancer to my party. It's something that I'm quite happy with. My consultant now says that my numbers are getting to the stage when I'm going to need treatment. which supposedly will be in the new year. There's some wonderful drugs there, and I'm quite positive about it, to be honest and truthful. You know, obviously it's not going to be a pushover, but it's something that we can address day by day and be grateful for what we got. So yeah, no, I'm in a good place, John. Thank you.
And we would also like to say how much we've enjoyed the webinars this year.
Yeah.
It's been a good way of keeping in contact with what's going on in the blood cancer world, and the drugs and stats and all that, but also in relation to COVID too. We found them really interesting and really worthwhile. So
a lifeline, really good.
Thank you to whoever's been putting all those together. Yeah.
Well, it's brilliant to see you both, and our Maggie's group has restarted in person in Aberdeen, so hopefully we'll see you in there at some stage in the next couple of months, Rory. And great again to see you, and all the best. And thanks a million for giving us this update. I'm sure everybody will be delighted to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you, John, very much. Bye.